Hello and welcome. Today I am going to do a very quick painting in real time, and it's going to be a painting of fields. So for anybody who has been watching me painting flowers for so long, today I'm going to be painting more of a landscape with fields and grasses and possibly some flowers as well, and maybe hills in the background. So I'm just switching it up a little bit today, and I hope you really enjoy it for those who like nature and landscapes. Materials you'll need, I just use their ordinary graduate quality for this video. Tubes are just handy for me working on the smaller size, and I have some good quality Winsor & Newton and small tubes as well, just for finishing it up. And I also have a lot of white paint on standby. I use gesso, but ordinary white acrylic paint is great. I have a spray bottle of water that is so useful just for creating drips or just wetting down the painting, cleaning it off if I make a mistake. Selection of brushes and a hairdryer. Hairdryer is really important, especially if the painting gets a little bit over wet. I can dry it in a minute or less, even with the hairdryer. If it's a larger painting, a few minutes, but the paper does tend to get wet. So the paper I'm using is it's acrylic paper, but you can use any kind of card or watercolor paper, anything that you have on hand. And it's just handy for me to be using a sketchbook that I'm keeping just a series of little small pieces that are going on in my sketchbook. So we'll get started, and I'll just zoom in on this to let you see it close up, and maybe angle it slightly differently there. Just change the angle slightly, and we'll get started on this. So I'll just get out my largest brush here, get that one going. And we'll throw down, I love red, so I'm going to put some red down on my palette. I'm not using huge amounts of it because it is a strong colour. And we'll throw down some green and some blue. Get all this going. Oh, and of course yellow, really important colour. And I always spray it down a little bit. It's just an ordinary household spray bottle that I filled with water. A used up spray bottle, anything, you can buy them as well, just empty spray bottles. I spray them down with water, and that means I don't have to be, it means my water is going to be clean. That they're wetted down, and it makes them a little bit more liquid instead of dipping my brush in and out of it all the time. And I'm keeping my gesso, I will keep it right here on hand, that white paint, so that I have it ready to use all the time. So using the larger brush, I'm going to dip in. Now I may not talk the whole time, so do bear with me if I quieten down. I'm just concentrating, but I will be coming back in and out all the time with commentary. So yeah, just getting this down. Now I have clipped this down. You don't need to do this, but I'm clipping it down because it's on an easel and it will move around. The paper will buckle and move around if I don't hold it down. But if you're just working flat, you don't need to clip it down like this. So yeah, used a lot of green in there. Bring in some blue. And always when I'm starting a painting, I've said this to you so many times, I want to get rid of the white on the page because I find that a big distraction. Really, I don't know what a colour is going to look like until it's next to a colour. And often if you put something on a white background, it will look a lot stronger. But if you put it against another colour, it may not look so strong. So basically I'm just messing around here, getting rid of that glaring white on the page. Maybe I'll take my clip off and go under it there just for the moment. And there we go. So I'm just going to play around a little bit with this. Here's a little idea to use the back of the brush to make a few marks. It's kind of like a way of drawing, and I'm just being really random, making random marks. I don't know why. I'm going to use another brush just to see if it works. This area doesn't seem to be going in. It's probably dry. That's why it dried faster. So I'm just scraping back here. So in the end, I'll have some texture in this painting. So that's the whole idea of that. So we take a look at this and bring in some more colour. There, one of my clips went flying. And you can see it is quite wet. Already. I'm just putting down some random marks. I don't want to make any firm decisions at the start of this painting, so I want to just see what's going to come out of it. And these are not the colours I'll probably end up with, but I'm putting them down initially to give myself a foundation so I can work in layers over this. And again, I'm going to come back in here and scrape some of that, soften it off and make it look more interesting. I feel like using a little bit of orange, so I'm going to mix the yellow rather than putting out orange. I'm going to mix my red and my yellow together to make an orange. And you can see it's actually very dull, that orange. So if I want to make that orange pop, I'm going to have to go over it with gesso, with some white paint or some gesso, and put the orange on top of that again, because it's quite dull going over the other paint here. But that's okay, because it's kind of giving me a browny orange, which may be nice. And I'm going to I'm varying my marks. I don't want them all to be horizontal or vertical. I want some of them to be, oh, that's a nice colour, nice bright colour. I want some of them to be horizontal and some vertical, but I'm using just one size brush so you can see everything's very even, almost like patchwork. And here we'll come in and scrape some of that back. And really this is random. I'm not trying to paint or draw any shapes or anything. I just want to break up those brush marks and make them a bit more interesting. Sometimes do this just to get the brush off the paint. And now I'm going to come in with a narrow brush. This is a really old brush, but I use it for starting a painting. I use up my old brushes when I'm starting paintings. I use the new ones for finishing off, for the finer details. So I'm going to come in with, yeah, I'm just putting a pale green mixed with white. Come in with more of that white there. And the one thing I've noticed is I need some dark colours at this point, so I am going to try and get some of this dark blue on here and there and create some drips with that. So I'm using my spray bottle and just to see how these turn out in terms of drips. We'll let those run down there. And I'm going to turn it on its side for a moment so that those drips won't all be going in the one direction. And we'll let those roll down the canvas. And maybe some white drips would be nice. Here. And you can see it just looks really messy, but that's okay. I'm happy with messy at this stage. And at this point, I'm going to get my hairdryer and I'm going to dry it with the hairdryer. So I'm going to pause this. So that painting was quite wet, and I have decided, it did take me quite a few minutes to dry it off. And I'm going to get going on it again now. I did dab it as well with this tissue to get some of the excess paint off it. So I'm just having a look at it, having a think about it, about where I'm going to go next with this painting. And you know, if in doubt, I always think, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my rigger. This is a very, very thin brush, big, long, thin brush on top of it, and it's just very, very useful for making marks. And I'm going to mix some of that red with the blue to give me a very dark purple, and that will give me some dark. I'll spray it just to make sure it's wet enough. So I'm going to come in with some mark making. Again, I'm not totally decided what I'm going to do with this yet, so the idea is just put marks all over the place and see what comes out of it. Sometimes I will turn it in another direction to see what it looks like. So I can make some shapes as well like that. And now I'm going to come in with some white. So I'm beginning to see perhaps there's a hill here. I'm beginning to see some shapes in this. I just felt I really needed to concentrate on this painting for a few minutes. And that's why I'm so quiet. Sometimes it's quite hard to talk and paint at the same time. And the reason I'm doing the scraping is I don't want to lose all the work I had underneath by painting over it. So it's allowing some of that to come through, as some of the under layers to come through as marks of grasses or flowers or peeping through like that. So that gives me a good effect of grass. And even though I'm painting fields here, they can have flowers in them, especially in the summertime. You just see so many flowers. And the fields around us in Ireland. I'm aware that up here there's going to be sky, but I don't want to be just going all blue, because often there is a lot of pink and purples in the sky. And I'm going to echo some of that I had in the sky with just little, maybe little flowers down here in the field. I just saw that kind of shape over there, and rather than imposing a shape on this painting, I thought that looks like the starts of a tree. So I'm working that up a bit. Actually getting bigger than I expected, but it actually is something now in the painting, something showing up. And I love this rigger brush because it just makes very natural looking marks that aren't contrived. It's hard to control this brush, and I like that about it. Maybe that could be a tree back there as well, this dark patch. Does look like there's something over here too. So yeah, I'm getting a bunch of trees appearing. I like to add in a splash of colour, so here's my splashes of colour in the foreground. And seeing that it's spring, you know, these trees could be blossoming as well. The colour. So at this point in the painting, I am beginning to see a shape coming about, and it is a field. It isn't so much as a big landscape, but it is a mini landscape. But what I'm noticing is that there's very little contrast in it, so I am going to bring in my white and bring in some contrast here. Because a painting to work, it needs to be light areas and dark areas. And you can have gaps in the trees where you can put in some pale colours. I want to bring some of that pale colour down here as well, into the grasses. I really want to bring in that contrast, so I'm coming in with more and more white and bringing it down into the painting. And I'm going to use my paper towel just to dab it a bit and bring it into the trees a bit more. And now I'm coming back in with my rigger, and I'm going to go for darks. I find this is a very good, it's a Windsor blue. It's a good dark colour. I don't use a lot of it, but kind of when I'm coming in at this point in the painting and I'm making decisions about my dark and my lights. This is a good strong colour. I know it's gonna, wherever I put it down, it's gonna stay. I don't want to paint every detail in these trees, so I'm giving an impression of trees rather than painting them every detail. I want them to be more an impression rather than a realistic interpretation. And you see, this colour is really giving me my darks that I need to bring into this. Back here, there's kind of a hill maybe of some kind. Mix some of the dark blue with the green there, and it'll give me a dark green for leaves. And sometimes I'm kind of joining these trees together. Sometimes in a painting, if I put a tree, and a tree, they'd be three separate entities, whereas I'm kind of not totally joining them up, but letting the leaves kind of spread from one tree to the other. It just makes the painting more free-flowing. And down here, I just feel it needs something. Maybe some kind of one of those wildflower plants, like hogweed or angelica, wild celery. They're beautiful. I love all of those. Queen Anne's lace. Hard to tell the difference between some of them. So yeah, I'm putting in some of those wildflowers, and I'm not putting them in great detail. I just want them, like these could be little buttercups here and there, or dandelions, clumps of them. And again, rather than having just an individual, I know I'm putting in individual little flower heads here, but sometimes it's better to join them up like that. You've got a bunch of them together rather than one random flower. And then you could just put, in the end, I'll single out one or two of them and maybe detail them. I'll bring some of those flowers up along here. And we want to put a bit of balance. We don't want all the yellow at the bottom. So maybe a dot or two of it up here. That's something to think about as well when you're painting, is that just to balance them up. I want to give a detail of 1 or 2 flowers over here with my rigger brush. And they're going to be smaller up here. And maybe 1 or 2 bigger ones here. And over here, another one. And kind of highlighting more the red flowers than the yellow ones. We'll give the yellow, maybe vary them up a bit more, that they're a different shape of flower, kind of more that way. And here, with this kind of angel, angelica, or Queen Anne's lace, there should be a lot of little small tiny flowers on that. There. And seeing I have it here, there should be a little bit more here. And there should be a hint of it in other parts of the painting as well. And what really helps with these flowers is to give them a heart, give them a center. A few of them, not all of them. And give them stems and maybe some leaves. It helps them to anchor them down, that they're not just floating. Put the stems in different directions as well, that they're not, you know, not all going in the same direction. I think we're coming to the end of this painting. I'm going to zoom in on it there a little bit. And zoom out. And just take a quick break. So yeah, I have really quietened down because I felt I needed to focus on this painting and pull it together. And it is coming together, I think, in the end. So this painting took slightly longer than I expected. It's one of those that didn't work out immediately, and it's probably just because it's a little bit different to what I normally paint. But I think we're almost there. I may put a few finishing touches on it, but I think it's quite a colourful little field of flowers. We'll just zoom into it a bit. Or maybe I'll bring the painting closer so you'll see it, the details in it. So there are my flowers, my trees, and there, the battle there was to bring out the contrast. At one point it just was looking very much all the same in terms of tone, and there was very little contrast between the darks and the light, but now there are some dark areas and some brighter areas and areas that stand out. So I hope you enjoyed this painting. I'm going to try and get into the picture. I hope you enjoyed it today, and I'll be back again next week, and please join me then. If you liked it, please subscribe. Talk to you next week. God bless and bye-bye.